Every year, when fall arrives, we have what we call an Apple Fest. With several apple orchards and wineries in the area, it's a time to celebrate our country heritage. Even the Barbecue World Championships are held during the fest, as we call it. Pretty much extended Halloween celebrations, and as kids, we absolutely loved it. Especially the hay rides that ran from town to the orchards. Spooky barns, broken down shacks, endless fields of corn and apples. I think I was 15 at the time when my last hayride occurred. It was either the corn maze or the apple orchard haunt. That was the usual choice we had. Us kids would show up in costume and volunteer to either drive the tractors or play the part of the maniacs or zombies, or whatever the coordinator decided us to do. I wielded the chainless chainsaw that year. My older sister, who was 18 at the time, decided she wanted to be a roaming zombie. Everybody participated. So we all knew each other pretty well. At least I thought we did. As we all took our places, mine was the last scarecrow on the left. I had a little walk to do before I got there, so I primed up the saw, gave it a yank. As I did, I could have sworn I saw the hand of the scarecrow move. Just a small twitch. Could have been the wind, I thought. Maybe. I brushed up against it as I was starting the saw, perhaps. Those thoughts faded quickly as I spotted the first tractor. Did my best impersonation of a chainsaw-wielding madman. As the screams pulled around the corner, I made my way to the other side of the field. I was about to jump out again when the tractor suddenly stopped. I couldn't hear what he was saying over the roar of the saw. But that's when I felt it. A cold hand. A creepy old man, dressed as a scarecrow, was sneaking around behind me. My mind went totally blank from fear as the man came running at me. I couldn't move. No fight. No flight. Nothing. As my mind tried to understand what was happening, a sudden big blur shot in front of me. It was my big sister. She hit that old creep with everything she had, drove him right into the ground. She was pulverizing the guy. Stomps, punches, and slaps, until finally the tractor driver mercilessly pulled my sister off the old creep. "Don't you ever mess with my little brother," she screamed. And she was still screaming, the creep, when the police showed up. Turns out the guy was an escaped criminal. They'd been hiding in the cornfield for weeks. If my sister hadn't kept an eye out, God only knows what could have occurred. And to this very day, I never enter the cornfields. I don't even look at them. And every scarecrow I happen to see always gets a second and third look. Sometimes you find redemption in the smallest of places. And other times, it finds you. Walking down the streets of New Orleans, my mind was a blur of misfortune. Nothing seemed to be going right. Job problems, COVID hell. If the world were a trash can, it felt like it was being dumped on my head. I guess that's why the sounds of Carnival and Fat Tuesday really appealed to me. I could wash away my troubles in the sights and sounds of Old Town New Orleans. As the night sang a sweet southern song, a heavy fog began to swallow up the avenue. I found myself walking through the old part of town, right with small, mystic shops that seemed to beckon in the weariest of souls. And there it was, right on the corner. It was a beautiful building, really. Small little outdoor cafe that opened into a larger room that had all sorts of mystical, magical voodoo potions and other religious necessities. Off the large main room was a tiny doorway that led into the red-lit hallway. It seemed older than the building itself. I could hear people talking as I browsed the many items. Bone powder, grave dirt. The possibilities were endless. And that's when I saw the small handwritten sign right next to the old money cup. Fortune teller. 10 cents. It's kind of odd, I thought. Who gives anything these days for a dime? As I looked at the money cup that was all beat up and dented, everything seemed out of place. It felt old, really old. And the more I thought about it, the more old it seemed to feel. It was like opening a 100-year-old crypt and getting that stale, musty smell. With the sound of a bell, a small young woman emerged from the hallway and slowly approached the outside exit. She hid her face from view, as if she'd committed some grave sin by even being there. As the door closed behind her, everything seemed to change. Colors were more vivid. Smells seemed more enhanced. And it all revolved around the sound of that tiny little bell. It seemed to echo in my mind like an old worn-out clock. Time itself seemed to be wrapped up inside of it. I was just about to drop a dime into the old cup when an incredible fear crept upon me. It was all around me, a giant warning to not go any further. And that's when I ran for the building, wind rustling in behind me like a pair of hands trying to stop me. It was suddenly raining as I turned back to the old building, gagging and coughing up the worst junk that I've ever seen in my life. As the blood seemed to drain from my swollen, headache-riddled eyes, they finally revealed an old, run-down, derelict-looking shack that had obviously been abandoned for quite some time. As I walked closer, the remains of the red-lit hallway now lay in a pile of ruins. Old jars and broken bottles lay everywhere, strewn about. "You all right, dude?" A strange voice emanated from behind me. The entire street suddenly refocused into view. "I didn't see you there," he spoke sarcastically. "Grown man standing in the road, middle of the rain? What kind of fool does that sort of thing?" "What is this place?" I asked, ignoring every word the man said while massaging the back of my neck, radiated intense pain across my shoulders. "Think you done drunk," the man answered. "It's just a street in the French Quarter," he replied. "But that place there, that's rumored to be haunted by the ghost of Marie Laveau. I don't pay much mind myself, but it is what it is. Biggest voodoo priestess ever." As the man slowly walked back to his car, "You may want to get out of the rain," he spoke. "Can't be that much of a fool," he laughed. I sat there in awe of what I experienced. It wasn't a dream, I thought. No dream can be that real and so vivid. It must have been. That's why my head, shoulders hurt. Maybe I fell, got robbed, something, anything. As I looked at the old fallen down building again, an ice-cold feeling shot down my spine. Hanging on the wall in the hallway, a tiny old bell began to swing back and forth in the wind, its haunted tone traveling on the wind and raindrops as time itself seemed to travel with it, guided it. And that's when the pain in my shoulders suddenly subsided. My mind began to ease as all the problems of 2020 seemed less and less important. There was something bigger going on out there. It looked me right in the eye and acknowledged that I was here. I exist. I don't know what it was, and I probably never will. But we're all right. I'm all right. To those who think it was just a dream, story, no, it most certainly was not.